warm welcome also from my side. Great to see so many people around exchanging ideas and experiences around digital presence and CoreMedia. We also want to share our experience. We made the last rather 2 years, I would say. And explain how we introduced CoreMedia at IKB and did a website relaunch. Maybe let me quickly introduce who's on stage with me. So we have Sandra from Adesso. Adesso was our CoreMedia partner, so to say, and supported us throughout the whole journey. And then we have Matthias, a colleague at IKB, and he's also today responsible for managing our digital presence based on CoreMedia. And then myself, Angelina, I was, so to say, the counterpart from Sandra on the IKB side and the project lead. Yeah, but maybe one step back, actually. We just heard CoreMedia is turning 30 years old for IKB. This is also a moment of reflection because we turned 100 years old. So IKB is a bank based in Düsseldorf. And we focus on the German Mittelstand. And for us, turning 100 years old was like a moment of reflecting. So we really thought about who we are and how we want to be perceived going forward. And for that, we defined a very clear ambition. So we said we want to do a brand relaunch and take into account our current clients, but also our current employees and also future potential employees, let's say. And even this first step of a brand relaunch took us like a year. But for us, it was clear that we want to do a brand relaunch in combination with a website relaunch. And this is, so to say, the point where CoreMedia comes into play. But before going into too much detail on how we did it, we thought it would be nice to show you a bit of the old world and then the new world, how it changed. I'll give you a quick glance at first. So in IKB we have a saying. We say like the old website is what we usually call like historically grown. I don't know whether you know it from your companies maybe as well. Yeah, and the website was like 10 years old, so here and there sometimes things changed, but not that much. And also it wasn't the only website. So in theory we had 3 websites, which was quite kind of a challenge because they were all on different content management systems, and there was not really an integration between processes, content, data. It was all over the place, so to say. And I'll give you a quick stroll through. So you don't have to read over it, but what you can see, it's rather a static website, rather gray, a bit conservative, let's say. Some pictures here and there, but not very engaging. And also a big issue was the navigation. So when we look at it, you see it's a very nested navigation, many subpages, and people always said, well, we don't really know where to find the information we are looking for, which is probably not great for a website. And then also if you look at like some of the company pages, some pages look like this. So really just a lot of text. And we were like, okay, that has to change. And then, we came towards CoreMedia. I'll give you also a quick stroll to this in a minute. But firstly, what we did is we integrated the whole experience onto one CMS, like CoreMedia. And this made it for us much easier to efficiently change content, not being so much dependent anymore on external parties, let's say. And just having a really integrated view, which represents our whole brand experience. I'll give you an impression real quick. Also here you can see right from the start, it's like a bit more dynamic with videos involved. And we started to use many different modules, really focusing on the content that is important to the user and kind of navigating through instead of being lost right from the starting page, basically. So this was like a really easy thing to do with CoreMedia. And also the other sub pages, so for instance the blog, which was a separate page, now smoothes in like really easily within the whole brand experience, and you don't really notice a difference. Also, when looking at the navigation, you can see it's much cleaner right now, so much leaner and a bit easier to get an overview. And what is also new, you can see the request, like the CTA right at the top. And when you pose a financing request, it goes like directly into our CRM system, which is much more efficient. Yeah, and also looking at the product pages, you see really focused on using different modules, being a bit more interactive with the client, and also allowing the client to reach us, relatively easily, let's say. But getting there was not a given. I would say it it really took us like half a year to start off, and then even another half a year to do the relaunch. And for that, I'll hand over to you two to give us some insights to the project.
Thank you, Angelina. Hello, Matthias.
Yeah.
So I joined the project. I was not involved in the pitch. So I joined when we won it, when the project really started. And I thought, okay, website relaunch, easy. Done 1,000 times. With CoreMedia, no problem. Huh? But then I got a bit the details. There was some negotiation in the before we won it. So we were faced with a fixed budget, fixed timeline, and fixed scope. Yeah, fixed scope, but the scope was not 100% clear, specified at that point. So we had the design was made by an external agency, so they were not ready then. So how do we do it? That was the question. But Matthias, question to you: were you involved when the decision was made for CoreMedia already?
Yeah, I joined the project relatively early on, and my boss asked me if I would like to help and work with the new content management system. And as you said, how hard could that be? So we relatively quickly fell for CoreMedia because we had some, as you mentioned, a clear project scope. Angelina mentioned before, we had a very fragmented site culture, different stakeholders, and we had to update our no longer supported content management system. And we had not just only one content management system, we had 4, I think.
3 or 4. I guess.
3 or 4. So, and then we had internally clear scopes. We wanted to make the changes to our new online presence by ourselves. As you all know, when you need external help, this needs external costs. Costs are always an issue. So we wanted this modular system. We want to work it for ourselves. And so also we needed a clear access control. We are still a bank, so this has to be bulletproof. And so, we had to integrate in the process our whole stakeholders internally. And Sandra, what would you say? Can you give an overview how we approached this tight timeline?
The tight budget, tight scope.
Yeah.
So there was only one way to do it, going in a modular approach. So what we did, we separated all the requirements, 30 plus something modules and the things you have to do around into packages. The idea was we make a package, we refine everything, we plan it, we estimate it, we put it on the timeline, so it was still designed to timeline, but so that we have an idea, can we manage it? We asked for approval, can we go with this package now into development? We developed, we stayed always in time. Then we handed it over to IKB. You had a bit of time to approve it, and then the basic idea was develop sign off and use it. So we trained the package immediately after we released it. So we were not live, but it was still released kind of. And trained, and then you could learn.
Yeah, I think, genau, right. That I think this modular approach was the critical success factor in the end. So we had, as we already mentioned, a tight schedule, but to give you as an audience a feel how naive we were in the beginning. We started in around February, and first we thought, well, we could be finished in May. Yeah. So in the end, it wasn't May, it was in the beginning of July, and then we went live, and this was a hard piece of work. And I think this approach, as Sandra already explained, we could train the colleagues, the different stakeholders step by step.
And then we had these dynamic sign-offs, package 1 planned, implemented, sign-off, next, approve, sign-off, train, doing like that. So it was really bam, 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 bam. It felt like that, but at the end, even it worked fine from the first package already. Or how do you remember that time?
Yeah, well, you pushed us very hard. But to be honest, we pushed back. Also. Yeah, we pushed very hard back, and this was a very nice situation because we worked very hard together. And I think we must take a step back and just have to speak a little bit of what different stakeholders we have. We had these little issues in the project. You mentioned 30 plus modules. And you came up that you told us, well, Matthias, Angelina, there are some modules that are redundant. Can't we just skip them? And we said, no, of course not.
Why? You can.
And you asked why. And then we said, well, we have different stakeholders and everybody is fixed on their part on the website and we need everything. Everything is in scope and we want it delivered. So, to make it clear, we have our private clients. That's the deposit side of the bank. You see mostly it's a platform-based business. And as you all know, for your private deposits, interest rate, that's the interesting thing. The other part of our bank is relationship-based banking with the German or the larger German Mittelstand. That's a totally another part. And then we have the HR department, recruiting process, and we have a very large and well-used block with our economic insights and industry expertise. So I think you get a feel there that we have these modules, 30 plus, and everybody told us, yeah, we need this and that, and we can't say no to any other module. So what did we do, Sandra? We started with the easy ones.
We started with the easy ones and did the most complicated at the very end.
Yeah.
But it worked. I think it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And you could build up the website iteratively. Yeah. How was it? I think at the end we had the thing with the content. Huh?
Yeah. If I think
thing with the content.
Yeah,
that's
content.
Not on paper.
yeah, it's not on paper. Yeah, but yeah, it's right. It's the main things we learned at the end of this process. If you stand back and the process is done and you have the website online and everybody's happy, and then you make these nice lessons learned. Perhaps first lesson learned: if your boss asks you if you just need to fill 2 Excels and that's all, and then you stand here. But apart from that, we had the content problem. Yeah. So content first, everybody knows. So we heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the designs were made based on not real content sometimes, and I fully understand happy part. Mm-hmm. But then the idea, okay, we need to add the content, then we do it iteratively with the modules we have.
Yeah.
But I think you had a stressful time then before. Maybe you remember how the 2 days before Go Live were?
Yeah, we sat on Sunday evening and scrolled through the finished website, and you always find something. But in the end, we were very happy. And another key takeaway for us, and I think to come to close now, we had two different agencies. We had the creative agency and we had Adesso as a partner for the technical part. And Angelina, we talked about this. If we ever do a website relaunch again, let's see, in 20 years or so.
20 years is fine, I guess. More than
Then
fine.
we would opt for a technical and design from one hand.
Out of one hand.
Yeah. And to give perhaps an outlook, I think that's the next part. What's next? We heard a lot about AI beforehand. I think we will hear a lot of AI in the next parts. You didn't hear AI now, but we are now kind of a year in with our new website, and we all reading the media, and that's the next steps we want to take. The next things we want to improve is one thing. There are needs from some of the stakeholders, perhaps that AI can support us with writing the articles, development of pages, and the other step is, and I think that's the next part here. How do you optimize your page with clients if they want to make your deposit decision? That there's an integrated solution, and I think that's the next steps for IKB in the next, I don't know, 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, that we want to take. But now we are very happy that we have with CoreMedia an internally well accepted system that we have under control. And yeah, that was a wild ride.
It was a wild ride, but we are still standing here. It
and
sounds
we
hard.
still talk together. Yeah,
But this could only work because we were all working towards one goal, and we really had a lot of fun. So I really liked it, and we went live not in May, but in July,
in the beginning of July.
the first. And we are now we don't work closely together. So we launched last year, but we were so happy seeing us here and being here together. And I think that's a good sign for a project that for me started a bit like, oh boy. Yeah. And we're mixing the agenda a bit now. What I wanted to say, in development, it was, Timeline, I had said it 1,000 times. We stick to the CoreMedia standard always, and that really helped us. The developers came up with a really good idea to work, to put the React directly in the frame makers, and so to have a really lean development and release process. And I think this sticking to what CoreMedia has out of the box, that really helped us to go through. And also, if we would have started custom development these 4-5 months, that would never work. So that was also part of the success.
Okay.
Then?
Thank you.
Thank you.